Welcome to Luna Family, a channel full of joy, smiles, and heartwarming stories. Come join our family today. Candy the Lamb and Fairy the Wolf. Once upon a time, in a lush green meadow, lived a fluffy little lamb named Candy. She was small, with bright round eyes, and a playful nature, sometimes a little too mischievous. Not far away, in the nearby forest, lived a wolf named Fairy. Unlike other wolves, Fairy was gentle and kind. He preferred eating vegetables, fruits, and wild mushrooms, and often helped smaller animals in the forest. One day, Candy decided to play a prank. She shouted loudly, "Help! The wolf is coming!" The flock panicked, and the shepherd rushed to protect them, only to find no wolf at all. Candy giggled, but everyone was upset and told her it was wrong to lie. The next day, Candy wandered too far from the meadow and got lost in the forest. She slipped into a deep stream, unable to climb out. The cold water made her shiver. Luckily, Fairy was nearby gathering mushrooms. Hearing her cries, he rushed to help, pulling her out of the water and using his own fur to keep her warm. Surprised, Candy asked, "Why did you help me? I once lied about you coming to eat the sheep." Fairy smiled softly and said, "Because I don't want to see anyone in trouble. Helping others doesn't need a reason." Candy felt grateful and ashamed. When she returned to the flock, she told everyone the truth and promised never to lie again. From that day on, Candy and Fairy became best friends, playing together every day in the meadow and forest. Moral of the story: lying can make others lose trust in you, especially when you need help the most. Kindness and sincerity can create true friendships, even between the most unlikely of friends. Tony the hardworking rooster and Lucy the lazy cat. On a small farm in the middle of a green meadow lived a rooster named Tony. Every morning, Tony would wake up early, crow loudly to wake everyone, and then start his day finding worms, collecting corn seeds, and cleaning the farmyard. On the same farm lived Lucy, a soft, fluffy, gray-striped cat who was extremely lazy. She spent most of her days lying on a haystack, only waking up to eat before going back to sleep. One day, Tony collected a basket full of wheat seeds. He asked Lucy, "Lucy, will you help me plant these wheat seeds?" Lucy yawned and replied, "No, I'm sleepy." Weeks later, when the golden wheat was ready to harvest, Tony asked again, "Will you help me harvest the wheat?" Lucy stretched lazily and said, "No, I'm tired." When it was time to grind the wheat into flour and bake warm bread, Tony asked once more, "Lucy, will you help me bake the bread?" Lucy shook her head, "No, it's too hot." Finally, the bread came out of the oven, smelling delicious. Lucy ran over and said, "Tony, can I have some bread?" Tony smiled gently and replied, "You didn't help me plant it, harvest it, or bake it. The bread is for those who worked to make it." Lucy felt embarrassed and ashamed. From that day on, she started helping Tony with the farm work every single day. Moral of the story: if you want to enjoy the results, you must take part in the work. Helping each other makes life more meaningful and happier. The carrot, the tomato, and the broccoli. In a sunny vegetable garden, three good friends lived side by side: carrot, bright orange and tall; tomato, round and juicy red; and broccoli, green and fluffy like a little tree. One warm afternoon, they sat together chatting. Carrot proudly said, I'm full of vitamin A. I help people see well, even at night. Everyone needs me. Tomato quickly replied. Well, I have lots of lycopene. I keep the heart healthy, protect the body from diseases, and make skin beautiful. Broccoli smiled and said, You're both great, but I'm packed with vitamin C to boost immunity, plus lots of fiber to keep the body strong from the inside. They began to argue about who was more important, until a little bee flew by and said, You're all special in different ways. If people eat all three of you together, they'll get the best health benefits. The friends looked at each other and laughed. That's true. If we stay together, we can help people be their healthiest. From that day on, carrot, tomato, and broccoli stopped arguing and grew happily together in the same garden, giving people a colorful mix of nutrition and health. Moral of the story. Everyone has unique value. Working together and combining strengths gives the best results. Mickey the Little Duck and the Bath Time Mission. In a small animal village, there was a chubby yellow duck named Mickey. He loved playing in the mud but hated taking baths, always thinking, bathing is such a waste of playtime. One day, Mickey played in the muddy yard until he was covered from head to toe. His rabbit friend said, Mickey, you should take a bath, or you'll catch a cold. But Mickey laughed. No way. I'm a duck, ducks don't catch colds. That night, while Mickey was fast asleep, he suddenly heard tiny voices whispering inside his mouth. Yay! We've found a new home. In his dream, Mickey saw dust creatures having a party on his feathers, dancing and giggling. Mickey was shocked. Who are you? The dust creatures shouted. We're the Dust Gang. If you don't take a bath, we'll stay here forever and make you itchy and smelly. Suddenly, Captain Soap and Superhero Sponge appeared. Don't worry, Mickey. We'll help you. They scrubbed and cleaned until the dust gang disappeared, leaving Mickey shiny and fresh again. When Mickey woke up, he quickly jumped into the bath, splashing happily. From that day on, he promised to take a bath every day, though he still said, I'll play in the mud first. Moral of the story. Bathing keeps you clean, healthy, and nice to be around. Taking care of yourself is part of staying happy and strong. Brave the Mole and Sunshine the Firefly. Deep underground in the forest lived a little mole named Brave. Though his name meant courage, in truth, Brave was afraid of the dark. Whenever he went outside, he always carried a tiny lantern to light the way. One night, Brave went out to look for food. But suddenly, his lantern flickered and went out, the oil was gone. The forest was covered in complete darkness, and Brave sat trembling, too scared to move. Just then, a gentle, glowing light floated toward him. It was a small firefly named Sunshine, who was flying around happily. Little one, why are you sitting here shivering? Sunshine asked kindly. Brave whispered. I'm afraid of the dark. My lantern went out, and now I don't know how to find my way. Sunshine smiled warmly and said, Don't worry. I'll light the way for you. From then on, Sunshine flew around Brave, her soft glow guiding him step by step. With every beam of light, Brave felt safer, until finally, he made it back to his burrow. Brave beamed with gratitude. Thank you, Sunshine. Your light made me unafraid of the dark. Sunshine chuckled. The dark isn't so scary when you have a friend by your side. That night, Brave slept peacefully and realized something new. Darkness is only the backdrop that makes a friend's light shine even brighter. Moral of the story: fear becomes smaller when a friend stands beside you. Even the tiniest light of kindness can brighten the darkest places. The Hungry Bear and the Gentle Salmon. In a river flowing through the deep forest, many salmon were swimming upstream to lay their eggs. By the riverbank stood Bruno, a big brown bear, yawning loudly as his stomach growled. Bruno muttered to himself, "Today I'm going to catch a nice big salmon." He waited patiently until a plump salmon swam by. Bruno jumped into the cold water, ready to grab it, but then he noticed something. The salmon's belly was round and moving slightly, as if there was something inside. Bruno paused. "Oh, you're carrying babies," he whispered. He watched as the salmon struggled upstream against the strong current, knowing that many tiny lives were waiting to be born. Bruno sighed softly, smiled, and said, "Go on, be safe." Instead of hunting, Bruno left the water and gathered roots, berries, and forest vegetables to eat. They weren't as tasty as salmon, but his heart felt warm and full. A few weeks later, Bruno saw a school of tiny salmon swimming in the river. He smiled to himself and thought, letting one life go can give hundreds of little lives the chance to grow. Moral of the story: kindness can create new life and bring happiness to the world. Sometimes giving up what we want is worth more than getting it. Rosie the brave mouse and Ellie the timid elephant. In the great forest lived a tiny mouse named Rosie. Though small in size, Rosie had a big heart and loved helping others. On the other side of the forest lived a large elephant named Ellie. Even though she was big and strong, Ellie was easily frightened. The sound of a snapping twig or even the flutter of a butterfly's wings could make her jump in fear. One day, Rosie saw Ellie squeal loudly just because a butterfly had flown past her face. Rosie chuckled and said, "Ellie, you're so big and strong. How can you be scared of something so small?" Ellie blushed and replied, "I don't know, but it really does scare me." Rosie smiled and said, "That's okay. I'll be your friend and stay by your side." From then on, Rosie helped Ellie face her fears little by little, walking past bushes, listening to the waterfalls roar, and standing still during thunderstorms. Every time Ellie trembled, Rosie whispered, "Don't be afraid. I'm right here." Before long, Ellie grew braver. One day, when thunder boomed across the sky, Ellie didn't run away. Instead, she stood tall beside Rosie and said, "This time, I'll protect you." From that day forward, Rosie and Ellie became the best of friends, proving that no matter how small or big you are, true courage comes from the heart. Moral of the story: courage isn't about size, it's about the heart. A true friend is someone who stays by your side when you're scared, and stands with you when you're strong. Prince Milktooth and the Gentle Lion. Once upon a time, in a small kingdom filled with laughter, there was a young prince named Prince Milktooth. He was called this because every time he smiled, his little white baby teeth shone brightly. Prince Milktooth was brave and loved adventures. One day, he heard a rumor. Deep in the forest, there's a fierce lion who scares all the other animals. Determined to see for himself, the prince journeyed into the forest. There, he heard a low growl and saw a large lion with sad eyes. The prince asked politely. "Dear lion, why do you make everyone afraid?" The lion sighed. "I don't mean to frighten anyone. But there's a thorn stuck in my tooth. It hurts so much that I roar every time I walk." The prince remembered the little toy pliers he carried and said, "Let me help you." Carefully and gently, he removed the thorn from the lion's tooth. The lion smiled widely for the first time in months. "Thank you, young prince." From that day on, the lion never scared anyone again. He became Prince Milktooth's loyal friend and helped protect the kingdom. Moral of the story: don't judge someone by what you see on the outside. Small acts of kindness can change someone's life. Rachel the little hedgehog helps her mother sweep the leaves. One crisp autumn morning, the wind blew yellow, orange, and red leaves all over the yard. Rachel, a small, fluffy hedgehog, woke up to see her mother busily sweeping the leaves. Rachel ran up and asked, "Mom, can I help you?" Her mother smiled and handed her a small broom. Rachel tried to sweep, but because she was so small, many of the leaves ended up stuck to the quills on her back instead. She giggled. "Look, Mom. The leaves are sticking all over me." Her mother laughed too. "Well, in that case, let's use your quills. Let the leaves stick to you, and then we'll carry them to the pile." So Rachel ran around collecting leaves in her own special way. Before long, her back was covered in colorful leaves, making her look like a walking autumn bush. When they had gathered enough, Rachel and her mother made a big, soft leaf pile. That evening, the squirrels and little birds came to play and rest on the leaf pile happily. Rachel smiled with pride, knowing she had helped her mother and made a cozy place for her friends. Moral of the story: helping each other makes work easier and more fun. Even the smallest ones can do something good for those around them. The Mischievous Rabbit and the Kind Gardener. In a small village by the forest lived an elderly gardener named Mr. Thomas. Every morning, he would water his vegetables, tend to his flowers, and harvest fruits from his garden with care. Not far away lived Benny, a mischievous rabbit who loved sneaking into Mr. Thomas's garden whenever the old man wasn't looking. He would nibble on carrots, dig up the soil for fun, and sometimes damage the flowers. One day, Mr. Thomas hid and waited until he caught Benny in the act. Benny froze, thinking the old man would be angry and chase him away. But instead, Mr. Thomas smiled gently and said, "If you're hungry, you can just tell me. I'm happy to share. But you must help me take care of the garden instead of stealing." Surprised but curious, Benny agreed to try. He started helping to water the plants and pull out weeds, discovering that growing vegetables and watching them thrive was actually fun and satisfying. Before long, Benny stopped stealing and became Mr. Thomas's little garden helper. When harvest season came, Mr. Thomas shared fresh vegetables, fruits, and delicious carrots with Benny as a reward. Moral of the story: kindness can inspire change in others. Earning something through your own effort is far more rewarding than taking it. William the Kind Frog and Jasmine the Teased Toad. In a lotus pond in the meadow lived William, a cheerful green frog who was always ready to help others, whether it was a slow snail or a dragonfly with a broken wing. One day, Jasmine, a brown toad with rough skin, moved into the pond. As soon as some of the other animals saw her, they started to laugh and tease. Look at you, you're not pretty at all. Your skin is so bumpy. Jasmine felt sad and sat quietly in a corner. But William hopped over to her side and spoke loudly so everyone could hear. Stop that. Beauty isn't about how you look on the outside. Jasmine has the kindest heart. She helps eat the bugs that harm the lotuses and keeps our pond clean. The other animals fell silent and began to feel ashamed. Soon, they saw for themselves that Jasmine worked hard to keep the pond tidy and even helped guard frog eggs from being eaten by insects. Jasmine smiled with joy, knowing she had a true friend who would stand up for her. William felt proud to have defended the goodness in his friend. Moral of the story: never judge someone by their appearance. A true friend will protect you, even when no one else is on your side. Tiny the Forgetful Squirrel and the Great Forest. In a lush green forest lived a little squirrel named Tiny. He loved gathering nuts and seeds, burying them in the soil to save for the winter. But Tiny was forgetful. He often couldn't remember where he had buried them. One day, an old owl saw Tiny running around, trying to find his hidden seeds, and chuckled. You always forget where you put things. Be careful, or you'll have nothing to eat in winter. Tiny scratched his head and replied, You're right. I'll try to remember better. Time passed, and winter came. Tiny had just enough nuts from the spots he could remember. But when spring arrived, something magical happened. All over the forest, tiny seedlings had sprouted from the nuts and seeds he had buried and forgotten. The owl said with admiration, Look, Tiny. Your forgetfulness has filled the forest with new trees. From then on, the animals in the forest loved and thanked Tiny for helping grow the forest without even trying. And Tiny felt proud, knowing that even though he was forgetful, he had done something wonderful for his home and friends. Moral of the story: sometimes our flaws can create unexpected benefits for others. Small actions can grow into something great over time. Tommy and the Tooth Trouble. Tommy was a little boy who loved all kinds of sweets, candies, chocolates, and ice cream. But there was one thing he didn't like at all: brushing his teeth. Every time his mom said, Tommy, go brush your teeth before bed, Tommy would groan, No, it's boring. One night, after eating lots of sweets, Tommy went to bed without brushing his teeth. As he was dreaming, he suddenly heard tiny voices whispering inside his mouth. Yay! We've found a new home. In his dream, Tommy saw little cavity monsters dancing and throwing a party on his teeth, happily munching on candy bits stuck between them. Tommy was shocked. Who are you? The leader of the cavity monsters laughed and said, We're the cavity crew. If you don't brush your teeth, we'll stay here forever and make your teeth hurt. Suddenly, Captain Toothbrush and Dr. Toothpaste appeared and shouted, Don't worry, Tommy. We're here to help. They scrubbed, brushed, and cleaned until the cavity monsters ran away, leaving Tommy's teeth shiny and clean again. When Tommy woke up, he grabbed his toothbrush and toothpaste right away and brushed his teeth thoroughly. From that day on, he brushed his teeth every morning and night, determined never to let the cavity crew return. Moral of the story: brushing your teeth daily prevents cavities and keeps your teeth strong. Taking care of your teeth is taking care of your smile and your health. The Sheepdog and the Golden Egg Hen. In the wide meadows of a small village, there was a dog named Rex whose job was to guard the sheep. Rex was loyal and always kept the flock safe from wolves and other wild animals. One day, while making his rounds near the sheep pen, Rex spotted a hen laying a shiny golden egg behind the coop. Surprised, he asked, "Why is your egg golden?" The hen smiled and replied, "It's a gift from nature. I can lay one golden egg every day, but it must be kept secret or people will try to take it." Rex promised to protect her just as he protected the sheep. From then on, he watched over both the flock and the hen to make sure the golden eggs stayed safe. Soon, the villagers noticed that no wolves dared come near, and rumors spread about a golden hen in the village. The hen decided to give some of her golden eggs to help build fences and repair the school. Rex smiled with pride, knowing that protecting something isn't just about doing your duty, it's about caring for what's precious to others. Moral of the story: loyalty and protection earn trust. Taking care of something valuable should come from the heart, not from expecting rewards. Daddy's Little Prince Luca. In a cozy little house surrounded by flowers, there lived a young boy named Luca. His father always called him Daddy's Little Prince, or simply Prince Luca, because to him, Luca was the most precious treasure. One sunny morning, gentle light streamed through the window. Luca sat at a small table with his father, who had prepared a sketchbook and a box full of colorful crayons. "What would my Prince Luca like to draw today?" Daddy asked with a smile. Luca thought for a moment and answered happily, "I want to draw a little dragon with a prince." They both laughed and began to draw together. Daddy drew a castle, while Luca drew a big-eyed green dragon and a smiling little prince. The bright colors made the pictures come alive, and Luca laughed with joy. That afternoon, they went out to the garden, where rows of red strawberries were waiting. Luca held a small basket while Daddy carried a larger one. "Prince Luca, remember to pick the reddest ones," Daddy said warmly. Luca giggled, picked a big juicy strawberry, and placed it in his basket. "This one's for you, Daddy," he said proudly. As the sun set, they sat together, eating the sweet strawberries and laughing until the house was filled with happiness. That night, before bed, Daddy picked up a storybook. "Tonight, I'll tell you the story of the little dragon and Prince Luca," he said. In the story, the little dragon was Prince Luca's best friend. Together, they went on adventures, helped the forest animals, and built a castle of friendship. Luca listened with wide eyes until he drifted off to sleep with a smile. Before turning off the light, Daddy leaned down and whispered, "Good night, my little Prince Luca." Moral of the story: true happiness comes from spending simple, loving moments together. Red Heart. Imagination and shared learning build strong family bonds. The King of the Jungle and the Silly Tootss. In the wide savanna, there lived a young lion named Calvin. He was strong, handsome, and had a magnificent mane. But he had one little secret. He often tooted a lot. Calvin wanted to find a mate, so he went on dates with many lionesses. One day, he invited a beautiful lioness to watch the sunset with him. But just as the moment grew romantic, a loud toot slipped out. The lioness jumped in surprise and quickly ran away, blushing. Calvin sighed sadly. Who would ever want to be with a lion who toots all the time? Days later, he met a cheerful lioness named Rosalind. She loved smiling, laughing, and most of all, eating beans. As they walked together, Calvin tried so hard to hold it in, but then he turned red and apologized. "I'm so sorry, Rosalind. I did it again." But instead of laughing at him or running away, Rosalind giggled sweetly. "That's okay, Calvin. I toot all the time too, because I love beans." Ha ha ha. The two of them laughed together happily. From that moment, Calvin no longer felt ashamed, because he had found someone who truly understood him. Not long after, Calvin became the king of the jungle, not just because of his strength, but because he had a brave heart and a partner who loved him just as he was. Moral of the story: true love means accepting each other, even the little imperfections. When we find someone who understands us, we can truly be ourselves. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Luna Family for more adorable moments.